finance just got way more difficult. Meta changed their policies again, and if you're running anything, if you're a financial institution and you want to know how to run ads, there's a good chance your ads are already running on thin ice. So guys, I'm going to show you all of my research and everything that we did to stay above board with SEC, and I'll show you a sneaky but 100% legal strategy and loophole that we used for our Meta ads to keep our advanced targeting without breaking Meta's rules. What's going on, gang? It's your boy Jerry the Ad Wizard coming back at you with a brand new video. And today I'm going to be walking you through all of my research for SEC compliance. If you are a financial business or a financial startup or a financial institution and you want to run Meta ads, you need to make sure that you are abiding by Meta's policies, especially the latest ones, and that you are sticking to SEC rules and guidelines. So guys, I'm going to show you how we did this with a financial institution and show you the playbook, exactly how we did things, how we kept above board with Meta's policies, and how we kept above board with SEC policies around financial advertising. Unfortunately, Meta's new finance category locks down your targeting, your ad copy could be a lot more easily rejected, and account restrictions and account recovery is brutal, guys. So we've gone through it, but there is a right setup, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it safely and securely so you know exactly what you need to do and exactly what not to do with your Meta ads, okay? Meta's new rules are stricter than ever, so in this video I will go through exactly what has changed, how we're keeping our ads compliant without tanking our conversions, the exact setup that we use for our clients to stay live and scale. So stick around, guys, we're going to get into it today. So guys, by the end of the day, you will learn, I'm going to split things up into two different sections, okay? Strategy and structure, and compliance mastery, okay? So both of these, super important for you to understand in order to get the best results out of your finance-based ads. For strategy and structure, I'm gonna go through the new finance products and services rules from Meta and how to stay compliant, the new financial products and services ad category and how it limits your targeting and audience controls, an education first workaround, whereby the ads are still compliant, but we don't necessarily need to label our ads so. The educational first workaround, which allowed us to run compliant ads using a certain trick to regain our audience targeting. And number 3, the vanilla to spicy scaling method. Okay, really important that we understand messaging and that we start bland with our messaging, test safe messages, and then slowly start to layer in stronger angles when we have conviction and the ad account is getting primed with more data. Once your ad account builds more data and builds more trust, okay? And then the second part, guys, the second learnings that I'm going to go through is what the SEC says that you can't say, why copy is your biggest risk, and all of the tips that Meta has given the AdWizard team to help abide by Meta's new policies. Tools like Hadrius and Zocket that provide compliance reviews and allow you to track your ad creative to ensure that everything is above board and compliant. And then finally, the copy and tricks that we used to ensure that none of our ads ever get flagged and that we are as compliant as possible. So guys, grab your coffees and grab your hats. It's time to spin up some ad magic. Guys, we're here and I'm going to walk you through exactly everything that we did, all of the latest updates for Meta, all of the things that we need to do for SEC in order to stay above board for our financial services. Okay, so first of all, I want to walk you through the new special ad category for financial products and services, okay, that got introduced at the end of 2024 and got implemented at the beginning of 2025. There are now new advertising standards that we need to abide by, according to Meta, to adhere to these new policies. The main aim here, guys, is to prevent discrimination across the financial industry, from my understanding of why Meta has done this. But guys, these new rules brings a whole host of different frustrations, challenges, and implications that we as ad managers need to pay attention to, okay? Now guys, looking at the documentation of this, there are a number of things that we need to pay attention to. I'm just going to walk you through how our ads are being affected by us needing to label whether or not our ads are promoting a financial product or service. 1, we cannot do any more location-based targeting. Location is set at broad level, so we cannot specify a specific location. We cannot specify a certain age range. So that's point number 2 within this new financial policy, is that we cannot specify, hey, we want to target these particular age ranges. So the age ranges are set from 18 to 65 without the ability to change or alter those. You have to target all genders. You can't specify, hey, I just want to target male or female. There's really limited demo and interest-based targeting available when we select our ad as a financial service or product. Okay, targeting is also affected with this new category, and there is a limit on the custom audiences that we can use. They're not restricted outright, but there are certain audiences that we won't be able to use. Okay, so that is the 5th thing to bear in mind within this new policy, is that those 5 things will need to be adhered to. Unfortunately, when we select our ad category, all of these things are set to default, so we cannot move them, okay? So when you go and create your ad, you will see that you cannot change the age range, you cannot change the demographics, anything like this. So this is a limitation to the new financial product and service category, guys. So I just want to bring that to your attention because I'm going to show you some workarounds. I'm going to show you how we adhered to these best as we can and how we still manage to get great results even within the financial service category ad. And the reason that they say that they do this is because ads in this special category must not discriminate against people based on any certain personal criteria or characteristics, and that is why they are doing this. We cannot discriminate, guys. We cannot discriminate with our ads. So when you label your ad as a financial product service, all of these fine tunings will disappear and we won't be able to do those things. But that's fine, guys, because we know how to adhere to the policies and then how to adhere to SEC's rules and policies, because there are 2 organizations of hoops: Meta's new financial category and the SEC policies and rules and regulations around advertising, because the SEC is very strict in the USA. So we need to adhere to these regulations. I'm going to go through now some SEC rules and regulations. Okay. Right, guys. So next of all, I'm going to go through the SEC rules and regulations research that we put together preliminarily to show you a very thorough understanding of SEC rules and regulations for this specific type of advertising. Now, I will say this as a caveat. This was our first draft of the research of policy abiding rules. I'm going to go through in a moment the upgraded version, which has specifically all the things that we do need to be paying attention to. The reason that I wanted to show you this is because under SEC's rules of Rule 206,4-1, the marketing rule in the Investment Advisors Act, this is the SEC policy that we need to abide by super vigorously within our Meta ads. Okay, so what does it mean? What do we do? How do we do it? Well, guys, I'm going to show you. This is an extensive list of all of the rules that we need to adhere by with the SEC policies, rules, and regulations. Like I said, I'm going to go through in a second an upgraded version of this because as I scroll through here, as you can see, there are many rules. Actually, in total, around 65 different rules that our ads need to abide by. Now, we condensed this, like I said, I upgraded this to condense it just on the things that we super need to focus on. That is super important. Okay, some of these things are important, but they're not super critical. And this is the thing. We cannot get lost in what isn't critical and take things when they need to be applied to our business. So I'm just going to go through really quickly, guys. So avoid false and misleading statements. This is a big one. Testimonials and endorsement, right? We need to include disclosure text if we are paying people for UGC content creation, or if we're paying anybody to act in our ads, we need to have disclaimers, for example. We can't cherry pick performance. So we need to have additional disclaimers around, things like based on a 10-year historical average, okay? To tell people, hey, this might not be the return that you're always going to get. So if you're going to be bringing in, hey, you could be making this return, these are the kind of returns that you can expect, that when you make those kind of big statements, you need to disclose those by saying specifically in relation to what? So in relation to the 10-year historical average within an S&P 500 index, which typically has 10 to 12% return, right? We, like I say, condensed a lot of these disclosures and disclaimers, but, guys, just to give you the understanding of how detailed our initial research was around this and what we thought we needed to do, be transparent about fees and costs, presentation of hypothetical performance, that kind of brings into the last point that I was just saying, explain material risks, use consistent methodology, avoid oversimplifying or overpromising to under-sophisticated investors, for example. We need to follow the social media specific guidelines, prohibited practices. Look at this list, okay? 65 different points of things that we need to abide by under this particular rule from the SEC, okay? So this in itself is a minefield, guys. We need to be paying attention to all of these things, not for Meta, but for the SEC, okay? The SEC, we need to abide by their rules as well. So there's 2 sets of rules that we're trying to abide by here, Meta's rules and the SEC rules. Now, obviously I'm going through the SEC rules. Guys, this is a 65-point list of things that we need to be aware of. But, like I said, after talking to more experts, after doing more research, after testing more in the Meta Ad Manager, I can now present to you the rules that we condensed that were super, super hyper specific to what we needed to do with Meta ads, and I'm going to show you that right now. So this is a lighter version, okay? We have condensed everything. After speaking to financial experts, after speaking to SEC specialists, okay, these are the things that they said are hypercritical, okay? So we condensed that 65 list of rules and regulations for the SEC that we need to abide by with our Meta ads. But guys, this is the secret sauce.
of what we actually did, because a lot of those other rules, they can be condensed. Some of those things can be seen as overkill, right? So the things that are mission critical at this point, I'm going to go through right now, okay, because this is the learnings that we had and that we have then applied to our ads. And I'm going to show you the ads and everything else, but these are the rules, these are the underlying rules for the ad creation, using hooks, angles, etc. So guys, first of all, we did focus and create some UGC. We paid for some content creators to make some UGC on the behalf of the business. And the first step is adding appropriate disclaimers. So having all these disclaimers whenever you are referencing a certain bit of material, whether or not the actress or the actor is shown, you need to say this is a paid actor or actress. If you're using numbers or figures, you need to say past performance is not indicative of future results. This is typical, but it might not happen for you. And that's really important why we have those disclaimers, because we need to make it very, very obvious to those unsophisticated investors, the potential risks and everything else. And we can't sell a dream in investment that isn't true. Okay, so we need to have disclaimers to allow for those disclaimers for people to make up their own minds around these things. So projections are based on historical data, do not guarantee future outcomes. Very similar to the last one, but slightly different. Here, we've got, I think for this particular piece of content, we had a graph and compound interest kind of being represented in the graph. So within this particular shot of that ad creative, we need to put projections are based on S&P 500 historical data and do not guarantee future outcomes. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Your results may vary, right? So these are 5 of the top disclaimers that we put in our UGC ad creatives. Okay. As you are mapping out your ad copy, here are some rules to follow for your ad copy, okay? You cannot make any substantial claims, guys, okay? You cannot say guarantees return, you can make X amount, you can make 1.3 million, you can make 5 million, you can make 10 million, whatever you want to say. Those big promises, those big messaging hooks, this, guys, is something which we have to be very, very cognizant of, okay? You cannot say things like guarantee return and make this amount and all those kind of things. So I'm going to go through the strategy that we utilized in order to do this properly. But guys, we need to be careful. We cannot say things like that. Unfortunately, Meta is going to reject and potentially restrict our ads if we make any big unsubstantial claims. I'm going to go through the vanilla strategy that we rolled out, okay? This is dipping your toes in carefully with some messaging, seeing where the boundary is, and then slowly pushing the boundary on Meta to see what we can say and see where the ceiling is before we get rejected, for example, right? Super, super interesting, super, super cool. So within the ad copy as well, something that we really need to abide by, and this is something that Meta told us ourselves, is that it's very important at the beginning that we don't mention specific numbers, okay? We don't mention specific numbers. You can make millions by the time you retire. It's not saying that you will, it's saying that you can. You can make millions by the time you retire. You're not saying by this age you will make this amount. You're saying you can make millions, which is more general, by the time you retire, which is again a general time frame point, right? So it's not saying you will make 5 million in the next 2 years, okay? You cannot say that stuff, guys. It's really, really important. You cannot say that. Within this particular rule, within this particular strategy, because this was promoting child Roth IRAs, we had to put an additional caveat in there as well to say that it was from 4 years old, so that this is applicable, not 3. So any additional rules around the service that you're running, I think this is, we can add those bits in here as well to ensure that all the copy is also centralized around some of these rules. And just as a high level, I'll just go through some disclaimer rules here. So I mentioned obviously the paid actor or actress. We have to have transparency here to ensure the advertisement uses an actor or influencer is disclosed that an individual is not a real client, but a compensated spokesperson. Okay, phrases such as this is a paid actor portrayal should be included prominently. So that was actually within the SEC rules, and like I said there, this is how we've gone through that by having some of those additional disclaimers. In compliance adherence to the SEC rule 206 brackets 4-1 regarding endorsements and testimonials which require clear disclosures of compensation or material connections, okay? And that's why we say this is a paid actor or actress, because we could say this is an actor or actress and she was paid or they were paid, but we want to just have a really condensed, easy to read disclaimer that doesn't really put people off and doesn't have a huge amount of text, right? So that's why we kind of included those. This is a paid actor or actress. That way we are disclosing the compensation that they have been paid and the fact that they are an actor or actress who has been paid as a spokesperson and not an official client. So this is an important thing to remember. Projections outcomes may vary, okay? So you can't have any guarantees. You've got to disclose any assumptions, okay? Clearly explaining the mechanics behind those projections, e.g. market conditions, fee structures, or time frames. You know, projections are based on historical data and do not guarantee future outcomes. Things like this will be perfectly fine to use, guys. If you can stick to these 5 disclaimers, I think this will see you very right. We can get oversaturated with different disclosures and things that we need to abide by. This stuff is super high level priority, guys. So I think if you got this down, you got it down, guys. You got it down. Then there's loads more things that we'll go through in terms of like how we then speak to Meta if anything does go wrong, or, you know, all these kind of things to ensure that our ad account doesn't get restricted or disabled. We need to play some games here. We need to jump through some hoops. So I'm going to go through all of those hoops right today. The point number 3 here kind of goes into the second point. Results may vary. Individual variability. When using testimonials, for example, include disclaimers that these results are not representative of all clients and that individual results may vary dependent on those variety of factors. Educational tone. Frame communications as informal, encouraging clients to consult personalized advice rather than rely solely on advertised scenarios or testimonials. This feeds into the idea that we want to be educational and not salesy. If we are salesy, then we're making big promises, making big statements and all that kind of stuff. But when we're educating, we're just saying, hey, it could be this, make your own informed decision, right? So we have to have a bit of an educational tone in our messaging hooks and angles. Right, guys, no, just finalizing this section off with some examples. So you can't say, what if your kids could inherit millions tax-free by starting early? Instead, what we can say, and this is from Meta themselves, who also validate the things that are going on here. So instead, we can say, potentially grow your child's retirement accounts to 7 figures with the math of tax-free compounding. So there you're saying potentially, you're saying grow your child's retirement accounts to 7 figures. So again, you're not mentioning a specific number. With the max of tax-free compounding, that's obviously what it is. And that's the mechanic of how you can do that stuff. So within this is super vanilla, guys. This is super like we're not breaking any rules here, right? We're not mentioning any numbers. We're saying potentially. And, you know, this is how you will do that through tax-free compounding interest, right? Here's another example. What if the kids could get 50 years of tax-free compounding growth? What would the returns look like? Okay, here we are mentioning a specific number, but we actually have played around with this a little bit, and this was okay, actually. And we've used this a number of times. So what if 50 years of tax-free compounding? We're not setting, what if by this age? We're saying, what if you did this for 50 years? Okay, not if I did this, then I will get this by a certain age. It's what happens if you did this for 50 years, what would happen? And you're not putting specifics to it. You're saying, yes, 50 years, but you're not putting specifics as to, I will make this much, I will make this many returns, I will do whatever, and then be really specific in terms of what will happen in those 50 years, right? You're actually putting a hypothetical in here. What would their returns look like, right? They're making the user think of the outcome of something like this, right? What if you could give your kids millions tax-free by just contributing a few hundred a month? Again, here, we're not being specific. What happens if your kids could inherit millions tax-free? Sure, that is the thing that might happen, okay? But we're being careful here by we're saying you could, and we're not being specific into how much. So we're saying millions, and then again, we're not specifying how much by saying how much they've contributed. We've just put a few hundred a month, right? So, guys, this is a condensed version of the rules that we then decided to implement into our ads. These are the high-level important things that we need to abide by. We're going to go into some other bits and pieces in this video in terms of how we track and record the creatives that we're running and that we have run so that they can always refer back if you ever need to. You need to store these things. And this, if you're using, for example, something that I really endorse is like the ad reference guide system. I'll link a card in the top corner if you want to know how to do the ad reference guide system so you can plan and organize your ads before they go live. This is a great way to store for the SEC the types of creatives and messaging that you are running in case you ever need to refer back. So I'm going to go through exactly what we need to do. Now, guys, a specific tool that we use for our SEC compliance and ad creative tracking and monitoring was a piece of software called Hadrius. I think it has still some limitations. It's still very much AI-based analysis. So you kind of get very general ideas of the feedback that it's giving you. It can't really read the disclaimers in the video. So there are a couple of caveats to using Hadrius, but this is a compliance tool. So every single one of our creatives was submitted to Hadrius. Okay, this is really important, guys. If you are working and want to adhere to the SEC rules and regulations, I'd highly recommend, and this isn't a sponsored video or anything for Hadrius, but I highly recommend using a tool like Hadrius because it logs all of your creatives. It allows the SEC to see all of the creatives that you have been running, and it allows you to see if there's any things that you might have missed. Like I said, the AI doesn't give you amazingly vigorous recommendations. This is the SOP that we wrote for that system, and this isn't a sponsored video, but we did use Hadrius, and I can recommend those. It was an okay tool, but there were definitely some negatives to using it. But we have to store our creatives, guys. So we did use this particular system. Here are some of the prompts that we used. So the system is very manual. You have to add in the creatives. You have to say what the creatives are saying. We have to, what is the creative about? And you have to kind of tell the system what these things are about. So we created a number of different prompts, which will allow us to template what it is, the content that we're feeding in, using a transcript, for example, saying specifically these are the things that we are submitting, so that the Hadria system knows exactly what it is. And we are using GPT to basically submit these creatives, very rigorously, also checking them. But this is the kind of process that we utilized in order to do that and then submit our creatives to Hadrius. Now, it was a little bit time consuming. Adherence to the SEC policies and rules and regulations is very, very important, guys. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that. Like I said, Hadrius was an interesting tool. I wouldn't really recommend it, but in terms of adhering to SEC policies and regulations, it did us fine. I can speak testament to the fact that we used it and it was okay. Okay, guys, so now that we've gone through what we need to do to abide by SEC rules, okay, so that's one section done. Now, the fact that we have all of the rules and regulations that we need to adhere by in a rule bank, we can now go and see what we need to adhere by on Meta side. On Meta side, they have new categories for financial products and services. So what do we do there? How do we get around this? What are some strategies that we employ? Because you can't really do targeting. You can't specify any age within your ad targeting. You can't specify genders or location or anything like this. It's pretty much broad, okay? And the interests that you can select are super, super limited. I'm going to go through some interesting targeting that still worked for us, that was still there, which I was really surprised by. But now we're going to go through Meta's, some of the tips and tricks that we utilized when we went to go create our ads with Meta to try and adhere to product and services category. These things came into play at the end of 2024 and were actualized at the beginning of 2025. So these are things that any advertiser needs to be aware of if you're running ads for financial products or services. So first of all, we need to categorize our ads. Okay, so when we go and create our campaign for the first time, we need to declare the category. You need to declare different sections as you're creating your ads for the first time. And here at the bottom, you see declare category. You need to declare that your ads will be financial services. It does say here, after declaring your category, you can opt out or change the category at any time. Do this at first. And if for whatever reason you ever need to change that, you can change it. First, setting up your campaign, okay, declare your category first. You'll see a screenshot like this. As you can see here, we're in the ad manager under the campaign level. This is under special ad categories. This is where we would select financial products and services, okay, and which country we're going to be targeting. And then this is where we need to declare it. So this is where you'll see that notification where you declare, and then you need to declare your category here. Okay, so this is where you find in the ad manager where we tick whether or not it's financial products or services. Okay, so at the campaign level, when you create a campaign, go all the way down to the very bottom. And the special ad categories, this is where we select financial products and services. Okay, so if you're ever looking or want to know where that is, where we select financial products and services and label our ads as such, that is where you find them, guys. And here at the bottom, when you press special ad category options, it gives you a bit more information around some of the things, why Meta have decided to do this. Okay, so when you click on modified audience options, this tells you age, it has to be 18 to 65. You can't change it. Gender must be fixed. You can't specify. Detailed targeting, you can include some behaviors or interests or demos, but most of the detailed targeting is gone. Location stuff completely nicked, so you have to target by a whole country and not by a certain state or city, for example. Custom audiences really reduced. Lookalike audiences are unavailable. It's pretty broad, guys. So in terms of the targeting stuff, there's some additional information there around how and why things are very broad. Under modified form options, and you can create your form. The questions and information you include must be inclusive to help prevent potential discrimination practices. If you're using lead ads for financial products and services, employment or housing opportunities, you may not collect certain personal information such as age, gender, marital relationship status, and location information such as street address, town, and postcode. When we're collecting data, we cannot collect any of the data that specifically puts somebody in any potential discrimination. Okay, so really important to remember that, guys. And the final point here for increased transparency, so the Meta ad library contains all active ads running across all products and makes sure that advertising transparent by giving people more information about the ads they see. So the reason that we need to label these is so that when people see them in the Meta ad manager, it's very easy to identify whether or not it's a financial service or product that is official, because there could be hoax and scams and all sorts of other things out there Meta wants to try and eliminate. So, this is all in the bid for that, I think. But don't worry, guys. We have some workarounds, and I'm going to go through a super secret trick that worked really well for us in getting around this, actually, and how we were still able to abide by the policies and do some targeting if we wanted to, right? I'm going to go through a workaround that we tested and played with and really worked.
But before we go anywhere else that you do here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss any more important updates. We're here many times a week to help business owners, online advertisers, digital marketeers get the best from the online advertising, paid media, and digital marketing strategies, mate. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Woo!
So guys, I'm going to go through a strategy that we rolled out that allowed us to run ads, but also not be limited to some of the latest policies fed to us by Meta. And I'm going to show you the workaround that really worked for us, guys. I'd highly recommend testing this or testing something similar if you have similar funnels. But I'm just going to walk you through. We were able to run ads with detailed targeting, like, for example, wanting to target high household incomes. These worked really well for us in the financial sector. Targeting investors, for example. These are highly relevant targeted interests that we want to target as well. But under this new financial category, we can't, okay? What did we do? Well, basically what we did was we had 2 ad accounts. One ad account was for educational purposes, where we don't need to select the category because it's for education. And the other ad account, we did label that as financial categorization so that we could retarget people that we were educating. Okay, so this was a little workaround. I highly recommend, trying something like this out for yourself. Let me know if it works for you or if it doesn't. This is a screenshot of what you will see when you go and select the category for your ad. Right at the beginning, when I said declare your category, when you create an ad, and this was saying you've got one ad account where you are declaring the category and another ad account where you're not because you're educating. This is the loophole. So guys, I'm going to show you where the loophole is, right? Because here, as you can see, where it says, no, my ads promote one of the following. And it says, is any part of your ads about financial products and services? Well, they are, but they're about financial management education, right? So here, where we press no, my ads promote one of the following: unrelated activities, gift cards, financial education, tax and accounting services, and store rewards. This is where we don't actually need to categorize our ads as financial services or products because it's a financial educational piece of content. What we're doing there is promoting a webinar where we're teaching people about this specific point of finance, right? We're not selling. So we have those ads that advertises the webinar as education, whereby we don't need to label our ads as financial ads, which means then we have the ability to target. And our other ad account, we're linking them together and we're retargeting the people that have registered their interest for the webinar or have attended the webinar. We're retargeting them with the financial service ads labeled as such. Yes, they are promoting one of these. And then we're retargeting the people that are registered for the webinar, right? So this is a loophole, guys. Highly recommend trying this out for yourselves, okay? One ad account wasn't labeled because we're educating people on this particular financial topic. And the other ad account was financially labeled where we're retargeting those people that have come into the funnel where we're educating. Okay, so as you can see here, financial management education from this point of recording, this is still the way it is. So this is a loophole, guys, and I highly recommend trying out. If you want to educate people on a certain topic, okay, then you don't need to label your ads. Educate users on your particular financial products or services. You don't need to categorize your ads, but if you're targeting them with an offer from your products or service using your ads, then you will need to label it, right? So one ad account can have the labels and the other one can't. The one that doesn't is educational based, where we're bringing people top of funnel, educating them, and the other ad account is retargeting those people that we've brought in with those sales and offers around the products and services, because that is where we're directly, looking for conversions happening around our stuff. We're looking for a sale, we're looking for a conversion. So this is a little loophole, guys, that I would highly recommend trying out for yourselves and seeing if it works for you. It worked for us. What we did, like I said, was we ran a webinar, made it very educational. There was no sales at all. And we just told people to register for the webinar, to find out more information about this new particular financial service, to find out the workings of this new financial service, but we did not sell the financial service, okay? We sell in the other ad account when we're then retargeting people who have come through the top of funnel or have attended a webinar, right? So try it for yourselves, guys. So just a quick breakdown here. We can see educational campaign setup. This was non-sales focused. And we created a separate educational Facebook page about educating. We designed the ads promoting financial literacy rather than direct services. We used CTAs like Get My Guide instead of any direct conversion focused action, which enabled us to do audience segmentation and targeting to bring people into the funnel. The targeting strategy we'd used was parents, because this was specifically for child's Roth IRAs, and the top 5 to 10% household incomes in the USA. So we're able to target these people because we haven't labeled our ads as financial services in that category. Then we run the ads, like I mentioned to you in that screenshot, as financial education, okay, instead of direct financial services. And then what we did was we ran the webinar and we analyzed the results and then we retargeted those people. The plan of action then was to retarget those engaged users who downloaded the guide or registered the webinar, for example, with the other ad account. We're sharing the pixels and we're sharing the audiences and we're retargeting those people. Create separate ad accounts to ensure compliance and avoid direct linking between educational and promotional campaigns. So we've got two different ad accounts. It's not two different campaigns, two different ad accounts, okay? Messaging here is about booking a call, okay? So after they've attended the webinar, which is education-based, then we're asking them to do something, book a call, showing them our offering, getting them to take action, booking a consultation, all those kind of things. And here is, like I said, at this point, here is where we say yes to, are we promoting one of the following? Because we are promoting an investment service at that point. So we need to make sure that we're adhering to Meta's policies there. But there's a little loophole, guys. This is how we did that. Now, guys, I'm going to go through Meta's own insights. We spoke to Meta a lot throughout this campaign and through working with this client because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any problems in terms of the ad account getting rejected or restricted or anything like this. So we spoke to Meta a lot, spoke to a lot of different people at Meta, and here are some key learnings that I want to also consolidate and present to you guys, right? Because Meta also have the intricate workings of the internal teams and what they look out for, the technical team and all those things. So guys, here are some highlight learnings from Meta directly, right? So for point number one, okay, this is why it's important to not use, for example, numbers, specific numbers. If there are numbers in your ad creatives, the AI system can automatically detect it, and they could automatically say, hey, there are issues here. A lot of the time when your ads are being flagged, rejected, or restricted, there is an AI system detecting that. That's why when that happens, we need to speak to the Meta team and get this resolved manually. Copy is a lot of the time the main issue and not the creatives itself. That's rule number two, guys. Restrictions often come from the ad copy and not the visuals. Okay, so what are you putting in your ad copy, guys? That's really important. Okay, to avoid problems, add disclaimers into the copy itself as well as in the video. Okay, so the disclaimers I went through before in terms of adhering to SEC policies, make sure you have those disclaimers in the ad copy itself as well to avoid any complications. Okay, they do say finance ads get reported a lot. So if you're working in this space and you have realized and figured that out, don't worry, guys. Okay, there it is absolute, like honestly, financial ads get reported a lot. So many ads get taken down because users report them. They think, hey, this is too good to be true. This must be a scam or fraud or something like this. And that's ultimately why sometimes your ads can get flagged. So a good way to prevent this is by adding for your information. So you don't want to mislead anyone, right? With phrases like, do this and you'll get that, for example. You can't say those within this financial service category. So one thing that we did instead to reduce any frustration around this, what we would put in the ad copy itself would be, for more information, please contact us. So, but those kind of things opens you up to reduce frustration on the user side, okay? Because you're open, you're transparent, you say, hey, give us a call if you've got any questions, all those kind of things. And that's some of the stuff that Meta also looks at. If you have this stuff in your ads, guys, way less likely to get rejected, to be quite honest. So make sure you include, for example, a line in your ad copy which says, for more information, please feel free to contact us in the ad copy itself. And the fourth learning here is to fix the rejected ads instead of making new ones. I go through a really comprehensive guide, guys, all the different technical aspects of how you can get your ad account de-restricted again and up and running, okay? And I go for a really vigorous video with all of the different circumstances that you might be falling into so you can get your ad account back up and running. I'll link a card in the top corner. Fix rejected ads instead of creating new ones, right? So if any ads do get rejected, you can tweak it. Even just a word may mean that it goes into a review process again and then resubmit it. There's a very good likelihood that it won't get rejected again. But if it does, here's the second point. If you're unsure why it was rejected, okay, before you resubmit, make sure that you contact Meta support. And I'll stick another card, how you can contact Meta support around any of these issues. Again, I go through a very detailed video on how you can contact Meta support if you need to speak to them about any ads or any things that you want to be cautious about or alarmed about. I'll stick a card in the top corner so you know how to speak to Meta if you need to do that. And also, updating the ad description, funnily enough, before requesting that review can also help. So here is 4 tips that Meta themselves gave to us as we were trying to debug things, as our ads were getting restricted and de-restricted, and we were speaking to Meta a lot around what we needed to do and the discovery information that we needed. These are 4 killer points that really helped us understand and get around some of these strict policies and regulations. As part of our discovery and research, we also spoke to a lot of experts, and in adherence to everything else that we've spoken about, here are some more tips that the experts themselves gave to us to ensure that we were above board and compliant. So I'm just going to read through these. Avoid claims about returns, ROI, investing X amount and you'll get Y back in X time. Don't say things like your life will be better, you'll have life improvements, as these can lead to ad rejections and account disablement. Okay. Remove all misleading claims related to investments, returns and success. Really important. Then to ensure that They are realistic. They include disclaimers and everything else, right? So you can check your advertiser info sec.gov website to check out the company that you're working for to ensure that, yes, they are registered and that everything that they've suggested here is also being adhered by, okay? So that financial expertise tips, check on this website and make sure that everything is above board when you look at this and then look at your ads. Now, guys, we have a really good understanding as to what we need to do to set up our ads, to get the baseline of what we're doing down, so be really adherent to those policies and regulations from Meta and SEC. Now that we have those down, I can talk to you a little bit about what we did within the ad manager itself, because there's some strategies that we utilize here. You want to tread very carefully with this stuff, guys, because one slight mistake means that your ads can get rejected. So what we did for this, okay, is we utilized a couple of different strategies. Now I'm going to go through exactly what we did in the bid to level up our ad account so that we could be a bit more risque, say some more things that we want to say, make some bigger claims. The things that's actually going to sell and scale our business, they're the things that we want to say. So what we did first, okay, at the beginning, for the first few weeks to a month, we did really bland messaging, guys. We called this vanilla-based messaging. Bland. No big claims, not using any numbers, okay, being really safe. Okay, so like I said, was very vanilla. We didn't put any big claims, any big messaging out there in terms of all that stuff, but it was really safe. And that's what I advise you guys to do first, is understand where the ceiling of rejection happens, right? Because we need to prime the ad account first, build up trust with Meta, not have any ads disabled. So do really bland messaging without any of these big claims, and then slowly start to layer these in over time as you're building up trust with Meta. Okay, and we use an ad reference guide to store our creatives, so I can show you of how we built that up, okay, to the point where we are using bigger claims, using money in our numbers and projections and stuff like this. We can say that? Cool. What else can we say? Can we elevate that risk? We can't say that. Okay, an ad's been rejected. Cool. That's where the threshold is. We can't say anything more than this. We can't make those big claims. We can't use numbers. We can't use all these things. And as you're building up your messaging, layering more risky messaging, with bigger claims and all that kind of stuff, you'll see where that limit is, guys. Play it safe first and slowly build up the riskier and bigger claim messaging that you want to eventually get to, that's going to help scale your business with an offer. You want to slowly build this in so that you're not going from 0 to 100 and then everything gets disabled, right? You're playing it safe first and you're building in a bit more risky in every single campaign that you run, every single message test and iteration. You're building in more layers of risky messaging so you can find out what is acceptable and what isn't. Okay, you'll reach a threshold. Okay, cool. We can use numbers, but we can't make a big claim about this, X, Y, Z. Okay, so that's what we did here, guys. We spent a bit first and we used very bland vanilla-based messaging and then slowly increased the spiciness of that messaging for bigger claims, using numbers and all the stuff that we know is going to sell this financial service or product. So you just make your creatives ultra clean, no mention of potential loss or anything like this, just super clean, right? We can help you set up and do X, right? So really clean, no big claims, no use of money, and you can expect to receive this, is why it's great. And then slowly elevate the messaging to be more aggressive, to be bigger, to be bolder, right? They're the things that are really going to scale your business. So we want to see where the threshold is and where we can be a bit more risky and where things can get rejected and start getting disabled, that we can't go past that. So we need to understand where that threshold is. And this is a really good approach on how we can do that. Start off bland, slowly build up the spiciness level to your messaging and your angles and hooks and stuff like that. If you're running lead gen form ads as well, like I said, there's certain things that you can't record their address, their age and things like this, but you can record their name, their email, their phone number, for example, and maybe another piece of information. For example, this was a Roth IRA for kids. You know, how many kids do they have? This isn't discriminatory information, as you know, Meta has said we can't discriminate at all, but this is still really adherent to that. We ran a lot of different tests, angles, hooks and messaging, different ad creative types, hooks, all that kind of stuff, guys, within these campaigns. And we slowly increased the edginess of everything to say, so here are some bigger claims and here's some messaging that can really work and scale our business, right? So we slowly building stuff up, okay? Guys, something I'm going to touch on, which I have touched on in other videos as well. I'll link a card in the corners if you want to know how to do these things, but super important is tone of voice document and your customer personas, okay? Really important within the underlying foundation of this. What we would always suggest is, as a default, that we need to work on, okay? So as I mentioned, guys, customer personas. So all of the business decisions and marketing decisions are based on your customer. Make sure that you're customer centric, really important. important that we have a detailed customer persona that we are using as an underlying foundation of who we're targeting in our ads and our messaging and our hooks and everything else. Really, really important. I highly recommend doing that. The second thing would be to create a tone of voice document where you have some of these principles, examples, key vocabulary, terminology, and everything stored in as well. Okay, so this will allow you to, no matter what ad copy you're writing, who you're writing it for, which customer you're writing it for, that you're adhering to SEC policies in terms of the disclaimers and everything else, and that you're highly targeted towards your customer persona and the type of language they might expect that is very provocative or will allow them to take action. Okay, use a tone of voice document and use your customer persona models in your messaging hooks and angles, and also to ensure that you're being adherent to SEC policies and Facebook's policies and regulations. Now, guys, to round this all off, I'm just going to go through some example ad creatives that worked for us, that were approved, and we did end up running. We ran a lot, okay, and we ran a lot of different tests and everything else. Here is, a whole list of different types of content that we used that were approved. So I'm just going to go through a few of these, guys, just so that you have some understanding, so that you can see some examples of how we approached some of the messaging and some of the communications, right? So here, things that worked really well for us was like a linear graph, the representation of a visual representation of money going up over time, using, for example, this graph of slowly going up of compound interest. Again, we're not using any risque language here, guys. So create a legacy that will last for generations, not a legacy that will leave your child millions by the age of 38, for example, right? Like, we're being very vanilla in these creatives here. The client also had a calculator, and as you can see in this particular video, we're going through and you can see all of the disclaimers that we're putting along the bottom, okay? The disclaimers about past performance and all that kind of stuff. This is a paid actor and actress. All the disclaimers I went through originally, guys, we've added all that in to some of these animation-based ads, and then using really softer hooks, as part of the targeting here. So I think for this one, it was you're the CFO of your family or something. So very simple animation-based ads. These actually perform quite nicely with some of these, for example. This is where we started experimenting around with using numbers and stuff like this. Once the account had a lot more data, we'd gone through and made the ad account more mature, where we have grown and increased risk of our messaging. We then started experimenting by including some numbers and things like this. And this ad was one of our best performing ads, actually. This one, and then another slightly more vanilla ad again, like I mentioned with the graph, the rejection graph, very easily to understand and depict what is going on there. And some of the videos that worked really nicely, we had an FAQ video. This one here, for example, we paid quite a lot of UGC content creators. We made UGC mashups, made testimonial videos, all these things here. Here we can see the disclaimers popping up as the creator is talking about the particular service. So this is another UGC ad that worked really well for us, and that's how it looks with the disclaimer in as well. And completely above board, guys, completely above board. Just wanted to show you a super vanilla, like no spice whatsoever in this UGC, okay? Super bland. This was one of the first ads that we tested in the bland messaging and slowly increased the spicy levels to that one that I just showed you. But this is an example of a really bland particular creative. Right? We didn't make any big claims. We didn't say anything that it would be counter to the SEC policies or Meta's policies, rules, and regulations. Super bland messaging, but it was really impactful still, and we got some great results.
Takes care of it all. Investing early can set your...
Here again, projections are based on historical data and do not guarantee future outcomes, okay? Having those disclaimers in, super important. But here again, using graphs to illustrate savings and things going up. But this is still super vanilla, guys. This passed all the tests in terms of vanilla. We had a bunch of those, tested different variations and things like this. And then I wanted to show you another one that worked really nicely for us with the mashups. We made mashups. This is slightly more spicy, let's say. A mashup of UGC, and this again is super vanilla, guys. We're not pushing any boundaries in terms of big promises or anything here, so I'll just show you this one as well.
Complicate your tax return. In most cases, they won't. When you hire your child for legitimate work, 100% of what you pay them is theirs. Set and grab IRA stress-free without testing your taxes. That makes it effortless. Early investing helps your child build wealth.
But none of this ad is coming through in terms of making big promises and statements, including numbers and stuff like that. And all of them have disclaimers. Okay. And that is a quick example, guys, of like one of the UGC mashups that we made to test around different UGCs. We made a lot of different UGCs, but actually some of the things that worked really well were also image ads, square image ads. Here's one of the ones that we then increased the risk of, and actually this worked really nicely still, even though we're using a specific number and we're using the fear of loss, okay, as an advertising trick and technique to get people to take action. sometimes this didn't work, okay? So this was one of those risque things we had to slowly build up again and understand, but this one actually eventually did work. Okay, we have here the disclaimers. Every year your child can lose, and then we're being really specific with a number here, okay, which we can't typically do, but we did test this, and this was one of the ones that we pushed the boundaries for to see where the limit is. This one managed to run fine, okay? Here, but obviously we also have the disclaimers in here as well, because we have a slightly like graph-esque image, right? So we want to make sure that it says projections are based on S&P 500 data, right? So we have the disclaimer as to how we've come to that conclusion as well, so that people don't report us and say, hey, these guys are taking us for a ride. So guys, that was just a little a demonstration of some of the things that we tried there and some of the content that we tried. But guys, hit me a comment down below if you got any questions, if you're experiencing this for yourself, if you have any learnings, share it with the community, guys, share it with the team. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what the things that are working for you, some of the problems that you're having. And like I said, this is the strategy that we use for our clients, now running great results, and we're fully adherent to not only Meta's new financial product and service category, but also the SEC rules and regulations around advertising. Hit me a comment down below if you got any questions.
Thank you so much, guys. I am in the process of building something. I'm not still quite sure what I'm building and what I'm selling yet, but if you're interested in registering your signal of interest for what the AdWizard team has coming up next, click the link down below to join the waitlist and have exclusive access to what we are building. No selling, no marketing fluff, just good advice to help you and the bottom line of your business. Click the link down below to join the waitlist today and have first access to the things that the AdWizard team is creating. And that's it for today, guys. Hopefully now you have a really good understanding as to what you need to do for your financial business in order to stay SEC compliant and to abide by Meta's latest finance policy rules. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you and all of the support. Yeah, guys, finance ads are an absolute total minefield right now, so hit me a comment down below if you got any questions. Thank you so much for watching. I'm your boy Jerry the AdWizard. You can find me on Insta and X at Jerry AdWizard, on LinkedIn at Jerry Griffiths, and at Jerry Dreadlocks everywhere else. If you'd like to watch a video on how we targeted wealthy individuals for our finance-based ads, okay, click this video over here. I've got a tutorial on how you can target wealthy and upper-class individuals using Meta ads for your business. I'm your boy Jerry the AdWizard, and wherever you are in the world, I bid you peace and love and a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.